Just getting loaded up, all up in here. How's it going? How is it going? All right. I'm curious. Hey, Jess. I'm curious how many of you are experiencing sensations on your back from like the mid back to the lower back. So like this area. Hey, Stacy, so great to see you. Like this of your back, not your front part, but your back part. I'm curious to see how many of you have sensations of any sort, whether it's discomfort, or whether it's like a temperature change or a temperature shift. Because I think there's something going on in the collective right now, which is really interesting. That area is going to be represented, or it represents in terms of your chakras and your energy system. It represents anger, it represents frustration, and it represents resentment. And I think what's happening, I feel like a lot of us are transmuting energy, which just in general, transmuting means shifting and changing. Hey, Andy, changing from one thing to another. We're transmuting, right? Energy, the subatomic particles are moving in a different pattern at a different speed than they were before. And I feel like what's happening is that there is a large outflux, because it's not an influx. I don't know what the opposite of influx would be. Hey, Khalid. But outflux is a emission, maybe emission, maybe the word's emission of resentment, anger, and frustration. I really, really feel, at least for today, the energy right now, listen, you guys, the energy these days are so fluid. Hey, Cass, so fluid. So I feel like what's going on is a lot of us are releasing, emitting, even rejecting resentment and anger and frustration. And the reason why you're feeling that in your back is because those chakras, the kidneys, the spleen, the liver, which is where a lot of these energies are held, it's like they're squeezing out, they're being squeezed, which is awesome and and fantastic. And that can cause an emotional reaction. So you have the physicality of that energy moving through the back, right? So whether it's a temperature shift and a change, which is what I have experienced personally, by the way, is that all of a sudden my back is getting hot, like super hot, like it's burning. And I've done nothing. I've changed nothing. I'm just Terrying, right? Terries, right? Just like you, all right? You just keep doing you. And I've actually been feeling a lot of that the past few days. Now, the good news, or the cool thing about it, is that we're in full moon energy, which is about releasing and letting go. However, it's also amplified first, right? Because the moon, the moony moon, she's just, hey, Christina, she's just so big and juicy, right? So what she does is she pushes her energy and she amplifies everything in your field. So whether it's good or bad, it's going to get amplified. And then she lets go, and then she starts to release, right? So even like, so the cresting of a moon is like the biggest highlighted pinpoint, where the moon is either the biggest or the brightest or the smallest or the darkest, you know, for like new moon. So I think what's happening is collectively, a lot of us are letting go, which is great, right? But that also means a lot of us don't know what to do with the space that this release has created, because now there's like a hole, a space in your field. And that's not bad, so we don't judge here. But what it can be is kind of discombobulating or disconcerting, and you may not be able to know what's happening or to understand that now there's a space, and the universe doesn't like holes, doesn't like space. It has to fill up that space with something, right? So the question becomes now, what do you, as an empowered, spiritual, highly sensitive empath, what do you allow that space to be filled with? So this is where you get to exercise your free will, your God-given gift of, I am going to choose how I'm going to fill up that space, right? So though it might feel slightly uncomfortable, even physically, understand and know that the cleaning and the clearing out is so good for you, because now the schmutz, the shadow, the dark, denser energies that were pushed down by avoidance, ignoring, is now coming up and coming out. Awesome. But now there's a space that you can fill that up with. And what do you want to fill that up with, right? Do you want to fill it up with joy? Do you want to fill it up with gratitude? Do you want to fill it up with just calm peace? So today is, even though there's this release and there's this letting go of resentment and anger and frustration, there's also this ability to take control and to choose how you're going to fill up that space. So today's a very powerful day, it feels like, in regards to your human, because it's like your higher soul and your human are talking. They're talking. So are you going to, you can take, I don't want to use this spiritual blackmail here that says like, are you going to take this opportunity? I don't like that shit. I do not like that. It bothers me. I don't feel like we should be made to feel guilty or anything like that. But at the same time, opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. And can you find the courage and the bravery within yourself to make a powerful choice? So that's kind of like what today's is like. Are any of you guys experiencing any of this discomfort or any like on your back? Write it in the comment section. I think my feed is a little bit clogged because it's going pretty slow. I apologize. But let me know in the comments if you're experiencing any sensations in your back. Yeah, Andy's going, yes, yes, yes. So it's releasing, it's letting go, it's frustration and resentment. Look, you guys, I'm gonna call a spade here, because you know me. I don't sugarcoat. I don't BS. Oh, Andy, you were saying that your daughter had this morning and was talking about back pain. Yeah. Hey, Emily, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Hips. Okay, Stacy, I'm glad you brought up hips, because that was the second part of what I was going to bring up. Okay, hips. Let's talk about the hips. The hips. So the second part to this, in terms of resentment and anger, it's almost like, what am I letting go of? What am I releasing the resentment of, right? So call it as saying, I have some feeling on my mid back and stomach area. Yeah, so the stomach area is going to be your emotions, and the mid back is just going to be like the resentment and the anger. So, Stacy, I'm really glad that you brought that up. So, what are we letting go? What are we healing? Collectively, we're doing this. So of course it's going to affect us individually, but we don't really understand as a human. We don't understand the intricacies of all of this. We are transmuting sexual energy. Stacy, there's your answer. It's it's sexuality in a way. But it's the energy of masculine and feminine energies, and in the human it is usually look, I don't want to piss off anybody, and I probably will, and this is a controversial topic and all that, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Really, there's only two polarities when it comes to sex. Sorry, guys. So sorry. This is the way the universe works. The laws of the universe don't have a variety. It's polarity, meaning opposites. Good, bad, fat, skinny, poor, rich. So there's male and female, masculine and feminine. And a lot of us are transmuting resentment of our own personal experiences, okay? It's our own personal experiences in terms of sex and sexual relationships and the attachments that we have to it. So a lot of us are letting go of the resentments that we have been holding for God knows how long. Now, there are many people out there who have been sexually traumatized. There are a lot of people who haven't and yet still have and hold sexual trauma energies, right? So trauma isn't just a one-time event, right? So maybe there was a one-time event that happened. However, really trauma, the idea, the concept of trauma is formed by how your mind, body, and spirit is held, how it's comforted after the event. So you have your event, and then you have the energetic imprint that was left from the event, and then how is it being managed? How are you able to come to terms with it? How are you being guided? And that can happen. Your brain, your human brain, can deem something traumatic, which is terribly traumatic for you, but like for somebody else, no big deal, right? Which is why it's such a personal thing. So when it comes to sex and sexuality, sexual experiences, and just relating to other humans of the opposite sex, there's a lot that your human brain can deem a traumatic experience, even though someone else might not gauge it or, consider it to be, hey, Julie, consider it to be traumatic. So what's happening right now, I'm in the firm belief, is that a lot of us are actually transmuting the resentment, the anger, the frustration in terms of previous relationships, current relationships, and sex and sexuality. And that's what's happening. Okay, so some people are starting to write in. So Stacy's saying, So Stacy, what do you mean by is that an interesting or a I don't think so? And that's okay either way, whatever it is. Cass is saying, yeah, it's like I'm trying to heal my femininity to be allowed to express it again. Cass, yes. Julie, she's waving hi. Bliss Seeker sending a heart. Yes. Stacy is saying, I just meant explain more, but you did. Okay, good. So I'm going to give you an example. Of course, you guys, I always use myself as an example because I like to, as best as I can, keep my clients private. But about a little over 4 years ago, almost 5 years now, I met a guy, and it turned my world upside down. He was a dark night of the soul for me. It was a very distorted relationship that I allowed myself, I take responsibility for my part, I allowed myself to stay in for way too long. Because it was a trauma bond, he also stuck around, but from his perspective, he felt he was being kind to me by not ending things, where I let things go, and I could have and actually should have. So you have this trauma bond, these two people that are bonding over their own traumas, right? I let that go, and it's taken me some time to recover. I'm still not there yet because it hit me so hard in my femininity, but also in my sexuality. And I didn't know this. I didn't realize this until probably about 4 months ago. I shut down because of that experience, right? So I shut everything down. Now I look like a female. I identify as a female. I am a woman. I don't hate being a woman. It can be very difficult. But I also wasn't necessarily, and am working on, so I'm still kind of not there yet in terms of sensuality. Now, sensuality and sexuality are two different things, but sensuality leads to sexuality. Sensuality is exactly like it says, or like it sounds, focusing on the senses of the body: sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, right? Which is very feminine in nature, right? Why do you think we are the ones that have all of the lotions and all of the soaps? Because it smells good. We activate the sense of smell. So a lot of us will shut down from whatever our brain deems dangerous, and how we were managed, how we were cared for after that experience, right? I'm lucky and I'm blessed because I went through therapy and I was doing neurofeedback. So I had the correct and the right way to be held so that I didn't shut everything down, right? But now I'm starting to emerge from the cocoon, because when you're in healing and transformation, you have to come to your own. You have to like self-soothe. You have to learn how to regulate. You have to learn to remember who the fuck you are. Yes, yes. Cass is saying that's so enlightening. Like, I've shut down seeing the beauty in things. I've shut down senses. Yes. Yeah. And there's no judgment on this. Oh, you're welcome, Stacy. Have a great work day. We can shut down in so many ways. It was very interesting because I participate in an energy healing clinic twice a month, once a month when I can, where I do for the public. I do healings and clearings, and I got one last night. I was so grateful. I got one last night, and the healer was like, well, what do you want to work on? And I'm like, I think I'm ready for a relationship. I would like a boyfriend. Hey, Vanessa. I would like a boyfriend, you know, which obviously means I have to get out there. I have to date. I have to do all the things. I'm like, oh, right? But it's about reconnecting back to my sensuality and to my ultimately sexuality through sensuality. And so she's doing the thing and she's like, man, your sex chakra is closed. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, that shop closed. It's been closed for a while, right? So it's like, okay, I'm feeling this transmutation in my human happening on a physical level. I've been doing so much work on a mental and emotional and spiritual level. It takes a minute for the body to catch up, right? It takes a minute. Why? Because when you're dealing with mental and emotional energy, it's a higher vibrational frequency, and once you can feel it or it drops into the body, it's a lower vibrational frequency. So these high, fast moving vibrational frequencies have to move down into the physical body, which is why manifestation and materialization takes time, because of the space-time continuum. It takes time to move things through space, right? So I really feel like a lot of us are in this healing place, which is also why dating is really hard right now. Also why so many people are confused about their sexuality. Again, controversial. I get it. But there are no mistakes. There's only polarity. And do I believe in transgenderism and all that? Here's what I believe based on not only personal beliefs, religious, spiritual beliefs. I do think there are authentic cases of, what is it called? I forgot what it's called, but when someone doesn't feel like their identity, they it's not a transgender. It's like body dysmorphia and something else. I can't, the name's escaping me. I really do feel and know that there are cases that are real, authentic, and exist, but I think the rampant casualness and commonness of it is actually confusion, because so many of us are holding resentment, anger, and frustration in regards to sex and relationships. And look, I'll tell you this about human beings. We're not given a manual, right? It's not like there's one cookie cutter instruction and we're all act and behave and respond the same way. We don't, and we shouldn't have to, because diversity and variety is the way that God experiences itself. But there are basic fundamentals of polarity, and a lot of us are confused based on our experiences because we haven't been held right after whatever experience we had. And again, it doesn't have to be a big, terrible, horrible, awful experience that we had to have had. It's how are you being managed? How are you being cared for? Are you being witnessed? Are you being heard? Are you being seen? Is somebody ignoring you? Right? After the event. And that's kind of like what's happening. So if you're feeling back pain or discomfort or anything in your mid back area or your hips or your pelvic area, it's because you are transmuting and you are alchemizing. You're healing. You cannot have healing without transformation. And that's what you're doing. You're transforming, you're transmuting. And it's hard as a human to navigate that if you have no idea what is going on, right? So if you're feeling discomfort in the back or temperature changes, I'm experiencing the temperature changes. And we have this full moon, which is going to amplify everything, but it's also going to push it through. It's a really great place to be in. So, there was a rabbi once, I heard a rabbi do a speech, and he once said, comfort the afflicted and then afflict the comfortable. Isn't that what God does? When you're comfortable and everything's great, all of a sudden something has to happen to get you moving in another direction to live out your soul's purpose, your soul's contract, your karma, right? So we should always be evolving, and we are. We should always be changing, and we are. We should always be as loving, kind, and compassionate to ourselves with grace, 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 grace. Give yourself grace. Yesterday's message was all about grace. Give yourself grace while you are transmuting sexual energy right now. Okay? So hang in there, everybody. My feed's clogged again, so I don't know if anybody is actually saying anything, so my apologies. But just know you are not alone. This is a collective thing. It might feel really lonely. But there's a lot going on out there. And you guys, each and every one of you who is watching, you are highly sensitive. You are very much wanting to engage and connect, even if you don't necessarily know how and you have a tendency to avoid. Just know that that's a response to trauma, right? And there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, but there is another way you can learn how to be so that your human can navigate this experience way easier. But hang in there. Just really hang in there, because the love, the compassion, the kindness, and the grace that you can give yourself, you will, through your own transformation and healing, be emitting that. And energy influences energy. So as a highly sensitive, spiritual person right now who's watching this, who wants to connect, who wants to engage, and definitely, even if you don't know how, serve humanity in some way, then you can go ahead and do that. All right. There's a question here. Hi, Terrie. I have a question. Is it possible to reconnect with a sibling of mine that was miscarriage before birth? That's a really good question. So it's a complicated, it's not an easy yes or no. The reason is because on a soul level, yes, but you as a human who's been formed throughout your years, you didn't know them. So there were not shared experiences as a human in this incarnation. So it's going to be very difficult for you to validate information or get any information. You had no shared experiences with them. Now, there might be a little bit like if you were a twin and maybe, you lived and your sibling was miscarried, there could be a way, but it's on a much higher level than a human may be able to gather and collect that data and information for you. I don't believe I'm that human that can do that. So there could be people out there with, and there are, believe me, higher sensitivities, stronger, better, whatever you want to call them, energy, tactics, whatever, than what I have. So that's why I say this is a complicated question. It's not just a yes, no. It could, but the challenge is that the human earth suit acts as a filter for the soul. So because you didn't have necessarily a physical human experience in this incarnation, you might want to try, if you want something, you might want to try going to a quantum hypnosis healing therapist. It's called QHHT. I think you'd have some really good, or you'd have a better chance of connecting with a sibling that way. Versus your traditional, typical mediumship session. I would do QHHT. I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some information. All right, you guys. I think I'm going to head out here. I just wanted to let you guys know that what you're experiencing right now and what you're going through, first of all, you're not alone. Carson saying you're so incredibly talented and knowledgeable. Thank you for your help. Are you open to answering more questions by chance? Well, it depends on the kind of question. I try to very much use these times that we have together as opportunities for spiritual evolution and to connect to the self, because a lot of times people feel like it's not the right time to work with me one-on-one for my long-term soul intelligence transformation course where true deep healing and shadow work is done. So I just try and educate. I try and bring in some spirituality. I try and give recommendations and all that stuff here on Instagram. So hopefully that helps. So it depends on your question. If it's like a psychic or mediumship question, don't hate the messenger, don't shoot the messenger, but I prefer to do those one-on-one in private. I'm here to serve as many people as I can in one fell swoop. I am, just a heads up, Buttercup, I'm really, really excited about this. I've started to record heart tap meditations. It's been so well received with my clients that I'm now going to be recording them and selling them, so you can do a lot of the transformation and the healing through expanding your heart and connecting to your heart on your own. And so I am recording those and I will be selling those. I'm going to make them cheap, you guys. Cheap. So, yeah, I'm also going to start doing more pay what you can workshops, readings, all of those things. Again, I'm being called to serve as many people as I can. Bliss is saying you're definitely serving. Where can I find out more about your work? Oh, okay. Yeah. I should probably do that. Like, I'm not yeah, I'm not necessarily good at that. Okay. My website, terriehuberman.com. Here on Instagram, if you just go to my name, right, where it says Intuitive Terrie Huberman, click on it. I have what's called a link tree that has a whole bunch of links of how you can see how you can work with me, and how I have a podcast too, you guys. I don't know if you knew that, but I have guests on there too. So I'm really being called to serve you guys, and I'm trying to figure out how. I'm trying to figure out how. So I myself am going through an evolution, which is probably a lot of the reason why I'm having this transformation in myself too, right? I mean, if I can give you guys any advice, I mean, I can give you a shit ton of advice, but if I can give you any advice, is if you're going to seek help and guidance in a spiritual manner or an emotional manner, and definitely a mental manner, please make sure whoever you're working with is doing the work themselves. Don't be afraid to ask your psychic, your medium, your shaman, your Reiki specialist, your energy healer, whatever. Well, what do you do? What kind of work do you do on yourself? Yeah. It's a thing. Spiritual ego is a thing. I get smacked by it all the time. I'm okay with that because it pushes me along. I get help. I get support because I want to serve you, and I'm trying to figure out how can I serve you while still putting food in my mouth, right? Because we gotta call a spade here. People who choose to guide other people and choose to be spiritual and authentically help other people also need to have a roof over their head. So that's why people will charge. Spiritual people will charge. Also, just consider that a lot of healers and life coaches and Reiki masters and all that, they spend money to continue their education, to continue their work. So again, you know, a lot of people think just because you're spiritual or you're psychic or you have, you know, talents or abilities or whatever, that they shouldn't be charging money for their gifts. And that's a misnomer, because an empty stomach can't help anybody else. Right? Oh, okay, we've got some activity going on here, so I can go back. My feed got unclogged. Yeah, Bliss Seeker is saying, yes, you can only take people as far as you went. It's true. That is the reason. That is the reason you want to find out where your spiritual teacher, your guide, your psychic, your shaman, whatever is. Because if you're into evolutionaryizing them, if you're into evolution and growth and personal development and they're not, they're only going to be able to take you here, which is actually okay. By the way, it's okay to outgrow your teachers too. And that happens. I've outgrown teachers, and I've had students or clients outgrow me, and then they move on. Great, lovely, chef's kiss. How are you serving and helping others? That's how, you know, I do it. So yeah, spiritual teachers and guides need to work on themselves too. Absolutely. So don't be afraid to ask them, well, what are you doing? Where do you go to get your poop out of your system, right? So that's the scoop on the poop there. I do have some work I got to get to. I have some editing that I want to do. I never thought I'd be doing stuff like this. Everyone has to live, right, Andy? An empty cup can't quench anyone's thirst, you guys. That's why you always have to take care of yourself first before others. And that's why they're always saying, like when you go on an airplane, they say to put on your mask. If the cabin pressure changes, put on your mask first before your infant child. And I've said this before, and it's dramatic, but what good is a dead mother to an infant? Oof, I know. Right in the stomach. Right in the stomach. Hey, Flynn. So, all right, you guys, yes, if you want to work with me one-on-one, I do have sessions. I have a transformation program. I do charge money. Sorry, guys. I will always charge. That's not true. Sometimes I do events that I don't charge money, but I do want to start incorporating more pay what you can options, because I know that, gosh, right now, so many of us, myself included, like gas is expensive, right? Food is expensive. All of these things, you know, if you need clothes, gosh, children, kiddos, they grow so fast. Their shoes, they outgrow their feet. They need new shoes like every 3 months, you know? So I understand and I get it. And so I do want to be able to serve you. Please continue to hang out, and I will figure this all out for all of us. I will. And I'm going to be divinely guided on this. This is not going to be coming from me. It's going to be coming from the Sky Daddy, or, you know, my cosmic family. So anyways, yeah, so I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great day. Thanks always for coming on here and sharing what you know. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm here to teach. I'm here to serve whatever I can. Most of the time I have no idea what that even looks like, but I want to be here in whatever capacity that I can. And I learn from you guys too. So it is a symbiotic relationship. Okay, take care of that back today. Don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself grace. You are transmuting sexual energy. Have a great rest of your day.